The morning air was crisp as I tightened my grip on William's small hand, our footsteps echoing against the cobblestone streets. I tried to focus on his chatter, his innocent questions about where we were going filling the silence that loomed over me like a heavy cloud. "Mommy, are we going to see Grandpa?" His eyes sparkled with excitement, oblivious to the weight of the day ahead. I hesitated, the lump in my throat tightening. "Not exactly, sweetheart. We're going to meet with some people about Grandpa's things." I forced a smile, hoping to alleviate the worry in his brow. But deep down, I couldn't shake the unease that clung to me like a shadow. "Will we get to keep the toys he gave me?" he asked, his voice brightening with the thought. "Of course, honey. We'll figure it all out," I replied, wishing I could believe my own words. The thought of my father's passing still felt surreal, and the idea of sorting through his life without him was daunting. As we approached the notary's office, the familiar facade loomed before me, a stark reminder of the many times I had accompanied my father here. I tried to recall his face, the warmth of his laughter, but all I could see was the emptiness left in his absence. "Mommy, why do you look sad?" William asked, his little face scrunching up in concern. I knelt down to his level, brushing a few stray curls from his forehead. "I just miss Grandpa, that's all. But I promise, everything will be okay." I hoped that was true as I led him into the office, the air thick with an unspoken tension. The notary greeted us with a somber nod, and I could feel the room closing in around me as I took a seat. William squirmed beside me, his small fingers fiddling with the edge of my dress. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. Just then, the door swung open, and my heart sank as Oscar walked in, his arm casually draped around a woman I didn't recognize. She smiled at him, a flirtatious expression that sent a wave of nausea through me. The sight of them together was like a slap in the face, and for a moment I felt completely unmoored. "Jessica," Oscar said, his tone dripping with false sweetness. "Fancy seeing you here." He didn't even glance at William, who was now watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. I forced my voice to remain steady, though anger bubbled beneath the surface. "What are you doing here, Oscar?" "Just taking care of a few things," he replied nonchalantly, but I could see the satisfaction in his eyes. The woman beside him giggled, and I felt a rush of heat creep up my neck. "Mommy, who's that lady?" William asked innocently, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. I shot him a warning glance, but Oscar chuckled, the sound grating against my ears. "Just a friend, buddy. Nothing to worry about." "Friend?" I echoed, unable to hide my disbelief. "Is that what you call her?" The notary cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Let's focus on the matter at hand," he said, but I could feel the chaos swirling around us. As Oscar settled into a chair, a smirk playing on his lips, I felt a bitter resolve growing within me. I had to protect William from this man, from the betrayal and the deceit that seemed to follow him like a shadow. "Mommy, can we go home?" William asked, his small voice filled with uncertainty. I looked into his eyes, searching for the strength I knew I needed. "Not yet, sweetheart. We need to hear what they have to say." As the notary began to speak, my mind raced, trying to prepare for whatever revelations awaited us. I could feel Oscar's gaze on me, heavy with unspoken threats, and I steeled myself for the battle ahead. Whatever was coming, I knew I had to protect my son and honor my father's memory, no matter the cost. As I sat in the notary's office, the air felt thick with tension. William, my vibrant little boy, had fallen silent beside me, his small fingers clutching my hand tightly. I could see the innocent curiosity in his eyes, but all I felt was a sinking dread as I awaited the revelation of my father's will. The notary, a stern-looking man with silver hair, shuffled through countless papers, and with each rustle, my heart raced faster. I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change irrevocably. "Mommy, where is Grandpa?" William broke the silence, tilting his head up at me, his voice soft and sweet. I forced a smile, trying to mask the storm brewing inside me. "Your grandpa is watching over us now, sweetie," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. The moment felt surreal. I wished more than anything that I could shield him from the harsh realities that were about to unfold. Finally, the notary cleared his throat, and I felt every muscle in my body tense. "Miss Albertson, I believe it's time to discuss your father's estate," he said gravely, looking directly at me. As he read through the document, my heart sank further with each word. "Oscar Albertson, your husband, is the sole beneficiary of your father's financial assets," he stated flatly. The room spun, and I blinked in disbelief. "You are granted ownership of the country house in Crestwood, which, I must inform you, is in quite a state of disrepair." "What?" I gasped, the reality crashing over me like a tidal wave. "He can't do this. My father wouldn't—" "Oscar knew your father well," the notary interrupted, his tone trying to maintain some semblance of order. "The decision was made in accordance with your father's wishes." In that moment, I felt rage boiling within me. I turned to Oscar, who sat there with a smug smirk plastered across his face, as if he had just won the lottery. "You snake! You betrayed me and my family!" I snapped, my voice rising. "You've taken everything from me." Oscar leaned back in his chair, casually crossing his arms. "Oh, please, Jessica. Your father saw the truth. You're a failure at everything. You think you can run a house? You won't last a month in Crestwood." "Mommy, stop!" William interjected, his little voice shaking with fear. I turned to him, my heart breaking at the sight of his worried expression. "Please don't fight." "William, it's okay," I said softly, kneeling down to his level. I'm just upset." I could feel the tears welling up, but I held them back, determined to be strong for my son. Oscar scoffed. "Upset? You should be thanking me. With your father's money, I'll finally be able to take care of you both, even if you don't deserve it." "Take care of us?" I hissed, incredulous. "You mean take care of yourself. You've always been selfish, Oscar." The notary sighed, trying to restore some calm to the room. "Perhaps we should take a moment to breathe, Miss Albertson," he said, attempting to defuse the situation. But I could feel my world crumbling. "No! This is my father's will, and it's a disgrace. I deserve better than this." William stood up, his small frame trembling with bravery. "Leave my mommy alone," he shouted, his voice stronger than I had ever heard it. I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride mixed with sorrow at his fierce loyalty. "William, sweetheart, it's okay," I whispered, but my heart swelled. "You don't need to defend me." "Oh, and what are you going to do about it, Jessica?" Oscar sneered, his eyes dark and filled with contempt. "You think a broken-down house in the country will save you?" I felt trapped, my chest tightening as I fought back tears. I knew I had to leave this place to escape the suffocating presence of my husband and this betrayal. "I'm done here," I said, standing up abruptly. "Let's go, William." As I stormed out of the office, my heart raced, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. I held William's hand tightly, wishing I could shield him from the pain and betrayal that had just shattered my world. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me, but as I stepped into the cool air, I knew I had to find my way forward, whatever that meant. The atmosphere inside my father's house felt heavy with memories, the walls echoing the laughter and warmth that once filled them. Now, they stood as silent witnesses to my grief and confusion. As I stepped inside, I could already sense the absence of my father, a void that was only deepened by the sight of Olivia, my stepmother, bustling about as if nothing had changed. She looked up, her expression a mix of surprise and pleasure. "Jessica, I didn't expect to see you so soon," she said, her tone light, almost dismissive. I could hardly wrap my head around her nonchalance. "Olivia," I replied coolly, forcing a smile. "I just came to collect a few things before heading to the country house." "Ah, the country house," she mused, a hint of amusement in her voice. "I hope it serves you well. It's charming in its own way, though it could use quite a bit of work." I felt a pang of bitterness rise within me. "Charming," I echoed, trying to mask my frustration. "It's more like a relic of a bygone era." "What are you going to do with it?" "It needs more than just a fresh coat of paint," she said, her voice dripping with a casual indifference that stung. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was no longer the little girl who would crumble under Olivia's judgment. "I'll figure it out. I have to make it livable for William." "Oh, of course. The little one," she said, waving her hand as if brushing away my concerns. Children adapt easily, don't they? But let's be honest, you'll need more than just love to make that place a home again. I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of her words. I don't need your advice, Olivia. I can manage just fine. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of something outside through the window. An old man, weathered and wise-looking, stood by the gate, peering in as if he were waiting for something, or someone. Curiosity piqued. I opened the door and stepped outside. "Can I help you?" I called out, my voice laced with suspicion. The man turned, revealing a kind smile that softened the lines of his face. Miss Jessica, I presume. I'm George Blair, an old friend of your father's." His presence felt oddly comforting, a stark contrast to the tension I had just experienced inside the house. "A friend?" I echoed, intrigued. I didn't know he had many of those. "Your father was a good man, a man of integrity," George said, his eyes reflecting a warmth that made me feel safer. "He often spoke of you and your mother. He cared deeply for his family." I felt a lump in my throat. I wish I could say the same about my current situation. "Your father left you a legacy, Jessica. It's more than just the house," George replied, stepping closer. "There's wisdom in these walls, lessons he would want you to discover." "Wisdom?" I scoffed lightly. "All I see is decay and reminders of what I've lost." He nodded, understanding. "I know it's hard to see it now, but sometimes the most valuable things we inherit are not the material possessions, but the stories and values we carry forward." His words lingered in the air, and for the first time that day, I felt a flicker of hope. "What do you mean?" "Let me show you," George said, his voice gentle yet persuasive. "Come, let's take a walk around the property. There's much to uncover, and I believe your father would have wanted you to know it all." I hesitated, glancing back at the house where Olivia's laughter echoed, but something in George's eyes urged me to step forward. "All right," I finally said, feeling a newfound sense of determination. "Lead the way." As we walked, George shared tales about my father, stories that were rich with laughter and lessons. I could almost hear my father's voice echoing through the years, guiding me as I prepared to confront the challenges ahead. My heart ached with longing, but as George spoke, I felt a sense of connection, as if I were beginning to piece together a part of my father that I thought I had lost forever. "Your father believed in community," George said, pausing to look at me. "He always said that the strength of a person lies in the bonds they forge with others." I nodded, pondering his words. Perhaps this journey to the country house wasn't just about escaping my past. It was about forging a new path, one where I could reclaim my strength and find my place in the world. "Thank you, George," I said softly, a smile breaking through the heaviness in my heart. I think I needed to hear that. He smiled back, the warmth of his presence reassuring me that I was not alone in this journey. Perhaps, just perhaps, I could find a way to rebuild my life, one story at a time. The morning sun streamed through the cracked windows of the country house, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I stood in the middle of what was once my father's sanctuary, a place now riddled with memories and the weight of my newfound responsibilities. The peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards seemed to whisper stories of the past, echoing both warmth and sorrow. I took a deep breath, feeling the chill of uncertainty wrap around me. "Mom, can I help?" William's voice broke through my thoughts, his small frame clutching a paintbrush almost as big as he was. His eagerness sparked a flicker of warmth in my heart. "Of course, sweetheart. You can help me paint the porch. We'll make it bright and cheerful," I responded, forcing a smile that I hoped would mask my inner turmoil. As we set to work, I found myself lost in the rhythm of painting. Each stroke was not just an act of restoration, it was a reclaiming of my identity. The sound of laughter coming from William filled the air, and for a moment I allowed myself to forget the darkness that loomed just beyond our little bubble. "Look, Mom, I painted a flower," William exclaimed, proudly displaying a splotch of pink paint that resembled a flower more than any abstract art I'd ever seen. I knelt beside him, admiring his work. "It's beautiful, Will, just like you." Just as I began to feel a sense of accomplishment, a shadow passed over us. I looked up to see Oliver, the boy from the village, standing awkwardly at the edge of the porch. His downcast eyes and hunched shoulders were a stark contrast to William's bright enthusiasm. "Hey, Oliver, want to join us?" I called out, hoping to bridge the gap between my son and this boy who seemed so burdened by the world. He shuffled closer, glancing at William's creation before shaking his head. I don't know how to paint," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everyone can paint. Here, I'll show you," William chirped, handing Oliver a brush. "Just follow me." I watched as my son took the lead, demonstrating how to dip the brush and glide it across the wood. Slowly, Oliver began to mimic him, his initial reluctance melting away under William's infectious spirit. I felt a warmth swell inside me, realizing that in these small moments, I was not just rebuilding a house, I was fostering a community. As the day stretched on, I felt a gentle tug of responsibility toward Oliver and his father, Michael. I had learned that Michael was struggling with a disability that made him an easy target for the local bullies. My heart ached for them both. Standing up for them became a mission of sorts, a way to forge connections in this small village that had become my new home. "Do you think I could help you with your studies, Oliver?" I asked as we took a break, wiping sweat from my brow. "I could teach you some math or reading after school." Oliver's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and hope flickering across his face. "You would do that? I'm not good at school." "Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I believe in you," I replied, my voice firm yet kind. "Okay," he whispered, a tentative smile breaking through. The following days were filled with lessons and laughter, a tapestry woven from the threads of shared struggles and victories. I found myself pouring energy into Oliver's education while simultaneously mending the crumbling walls of the house. But just when I thought I had begun to carve out a new life, the past came knocking. I received a text from Oscar. The mere sight of his name sent a shiver down my spine. "I need to talk to you. It's about your father's will." I clenched my phone tightly, fighting the urge to respond. I didn't want to bring that chaos back into my life, especially when I felt so close to creating something beautiful. "Mom, are you okay?" William's innocent question pulled me back to the present. "Just a little tired, honey. Let's take a break," I said, forcing myself to smile. As we sat together on the porch, I couldn't shake the feeling that Oscar was lurking in the shadows, plotting ways to reclaim what he thought was his. Tension coiled in my stomach, but I knew I had to stay strong for William, for Oliver, and for myself, as I began to find my place in this new world. The sun was setting behind the rolling hills, casting a warm golden hue over the quaint village. I sat on the rickety porch of the country house, watching the shadows stretch across the ground. My heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. Oliver had made remarkable progress in his studies, and even Michael, his father, seemed to be thriving in this nurturing environment. I couldn't help but smile as I thought about the strides we had made together. "Jessica, thank you for believing in Oliver," Michael said, his voice steady yet filled with gratitude. I could see the pride in his eyes as he watched his son tackle a math problem with newfound confidence. "You've changed his life." "It's a team effort," I replied, feeling a flush of warmth spread across my cheeks. "He's the one putting in the work. I'm just here to guide him." "Still, it takes a special person to see the potential in others," he said, leaning closer. The air between us seemed to crackle with an electricity that had been building ever since we began working together. I could feel my heart racing as I caught his gaze, the warmth of his appreciation washing over me. Just then, my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, shattering the moment. I pulled it out, glancing at the screen to see Oscar's name flashing ominously. My stomach twisted. "Is everything okay?" Michael asked, noticing my sudden tension. "It's just Oscar," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "He's been calling nonstop." "Do you want me to answer it?" Michael offered, his brow furrowing in concern. "No," I shook my head, taking a deep breath. "I need to deal with this myself. I can't let him manipulate me anymore." As I silenced my phone, I felt a surge of determination rising within me. Oscar had tried to worm his way back into my life, constantly fishing for information about my father's hidden assets. I couldn't allow him to disrupt the stability I had fought so hard to build. "I need to confront him," I stated resolutely, my voice stronger now. I won't let him intimidate me. Not again. Are you sure you're ready for that? Michael asked, his concern palpable. Yes, I replied, meeting his eyes. I need to stand my ground for myself and for Oliver. As the evening settled in, I found myself pacing the dimly lit living room of the country house, the weight of the moment heavy on my shoulders. The walls felt like they were closing in around me, echoing my apprehension. I could hear the creaks of the old wood beneath my feet, and I realized that this house, much like me, had endured its share of storms. It was time to reclaim my space. I dialed Oscar's number, my heart pounding in my chest. When he answered, his voice dripped with the same condescension that had always grated on my nerves. "Jessica, there you are. I've been trying to reach you. You know I only want what's best for us, right?" "What's best for us?" I shot back, my anger flaring. "You mean what's best for you? You think I haven't seen your true colors? You're trying to manipulate me into revealing what my father left behind. It's pathetic." "Come on, Jessica, let's be reasonable. I'm just trying to help you. If you tell me what you know, I can make sure you're taken care of. We can get through this together." "Together? You mean you want to control everything again, don't you?" I could feel the fire in my belly. "I'm not falling for your games anymore, Oscar. I've built a life here, and I won't let you destroy it." There was a pause on the other end, a silence filled with tension. "You think you can just cut me out like this? You're making a huge mistake." "No, Oscar. The mistake was trusting you in the first place. This is my life now, and I will do whatever it takes to protect it." I hung up, my breath coming in quick bursts, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I glanced out the window at the fading light, feeling a sense of empowerment blossom within me. "Jessica?" Michael's voice broke through my thoughts as he stepped into the room. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," I replied, a smile breaking through. "No, I'm better than fine. I just stood up to him." Michael's face lit up with admiration, and I felt a warmth spread through me once more. In that moment, I knew I had taken a significant step forward, not just in confronting Oscar, but in reclaiming my life and my identity. The struggles ahead might be daunting, but I was ready to face them head on. The morning sun filtered through the tattered curtains of my father's country house, casting a warm glow that belied the storm brewing inside me. I sat at the kitchen table, my fingers tracing the outline of a chipped coffee mug, a relic of my father's life that now felt hauntingly empty. Today was the day I would confront Oscar, my estranged husband, armed with the knowledge I had gleaned from a surprising visitor the previous afternoon. "Miss Albertson?" The lawyer's voice cut through my reverie, pulling me back to the moment. "Your father had several hidden bank accounts, solely in your name. They are untouched, and I'm here to help you claim them." As I prepared for the confrontation, my mind replayed the moments that led me here. Oscar had taken everything from me, or so I thought. I could still hear his venomous words echoing in my ears from our last encounter at the notary's office. "You're nothing without me, Jessica," he'd sneered, his arrogance palpable. But today, I was ready to dismantle that facade. With a deep breath, I stepped outside, the cool air invigorating my spirit. The village was alive with the sounds of morning. Children laughed, and neighbors exchanged pleasantries, the community I had begun to embrace. I walked with purpose, each step solidifying my resolve. This was not just about reclaiming what was rightfully mine. It was about standing up for myself and my son, William. As I approached the dilapidated building where Oscar had been holed up, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I pushed the door open without knocking, finding him seated in a disheveled chair, a look of surprise washing over his face. "Jessica," he began, feigning innocence, "I wasn't expecting you." "Neither was I, Oscar," I replied, my voice steady despite the churning emotions within. "But I have something important to discuss." I stepped closer, holding my head high. "You think you've won everything with my father's estate, but you're wrong." He raised an eyebrow, curiosity mixed with arrogance. "What are you talking about? You're just making a scene." "Stop!" I cut him off, the anger bubbling to the surface. "I found out about the hidden accounts. My father left them for me, and they're untouched. You've been lying and scheming to take what isn't yours." His expression morphed into one of disbelief, then fury. "You're bluffing. You're just a woman scorned, looking for a way to lash out." I felt the villagers' eyes on me, and their presence strengthened my resolve. "No, Oscar. I've grown stronger than you realize. I won't let you manipulate me or my son any longer." I took a step back, my heart racing. "The community is behind me, and they know the truth about you." "Community?" he scoffed. "What do they mean to you? They're nothing but a bunch of simpletons." A murmur rippled through the gathering crowd outside. "She's not alone, Oscar," someone shouted, and I recognized the voice of Michael, my confidant, and the father of my student Oliver. He stepped forward, his presence a beacon of support. "You're the one who's about to be alone." The tension in the room shifted, and I could see the confidence draining from Oscar's face. "This isn't over, Jessica," he spat, his bravado cracking. "Oh, but it is," I said, feeling a rush of triumph. "Your schemes are unraveling. You've lost your grip on everything you tried to control." The door swung open, and the villagers stepped in, taking their stand beside me. "We believe Jessica," one man declared, and a chorus of agreement followed, filling the room with a powerful sense of unity. As Oscar's bravado crumbled, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The truth was out, and I was no longer the woman he had tried to belittle. I had my community, my son, and the promise of a new life ahead. "Get out," I said, my voice calm yet firm. "You don't belong here anymore." He hesitated, glancing at the crowd, then turned and stormed out, leaving behind the remnants of a life I was ready to leave behind. With Oscar gone, I felt the warmth of acceptance wash over me, and the villagers' smiles reassured me that I was not alone. In that moment, I realized I had not only reclaimed my inheritance, but also my sense of self. And as I looked at Michael, standing beside me with a proud smile, I felt hope for a future filled with love and new beginnings.